Hi, Sandy Ingram here with the Budget Retirement Options channel. Please do not click off just because this information is delivered via voiceover. This is urgent, important information for U.S. citizens living abroad.
This video is for U.S. retirees living abroad. The video answers the question, is America quietly pulling back? Here's what U.S. retirees living overseas must watch for. If you are retired or planning to retire overseas, there is one important question you should be asking. Are the changes we are seeing today temporary, or are they becoming long-term U.S. policy? That question matters because decisions made in Washington do not only affect people living inside the United States, they can also affect Americans living abroad. One of the biggest changes has been the reduction and restructuring of U.S. foreign assistance. The United States has sharply reduced many aid programs that once supported healthcare, food assistance, disease prevention, education, and economic development in lower-income countries. Nations considered particularly exposed have included Jordan, Kenya, Zambia, Ukraine, Syria, Haiti, Somalia, and Sudan. Of course, these are not the countries that most Americans are moving to. However, when you see what happened in these countries in the country you are now living in, it is time to pay attention. These are the most notable signs that you need to pay attention to local news daily. When the U.S. diplomatic presence in your country changes, that is the first sign that the changes are for the long term. During the recent conflict in the Middle East, the State Department ordered reductions in non-essential personnel and family members at several diplomatic missions, including those in Saudi Arabia and Turkey. Diplomatic facilities elsewhere in the region were also affected by heightened security concerns. This is important because when an embassy reduces its staff, closes temporarily, or limits normal operations, Americans should not assume the embassy can solve every problem immediately. An embassy cannot normally provide medical treatment, pay personal bills, or guarantee evacuation. During a serious emergency, flights may fill quickly, borders may close, and official assistance may be limited. There are also changes taking place across Africa. The United States has moved toward concentrating visa processing at a smaller number of regional locations. Plans reported in June 2026 would reduce the number of U.S. embassies and consulates in Africa processing visas from nearly 50 to approximately 20 hubs. This change mainly affects foreign citizens applying for U.S. visas rather than routine services for American citizens. However, it may still be part of a larger trend. The United States is centralizing some overseas operations and becoming more selective about where it places staff and resources. For an expat, that may mean longer travel distances for certain services, slower processing, fewer local diplomatic employees, or greater dependence on online assistance. Public health changes are another concern. Reductions in U.S. funding for international disease surveillance and prevention may be especially important for retirees living in parts of Africa or other regions where healthcare systems are already under pressure. Recent reports have linked funding cuts to disruptions in medical supplies, food programs, disease treatment, and emergency response services in several vulnerable countries. Again, this does not mean every retiree should leave these countries. It means retirees need to examine the country's strength. Does the country have a reliable healthcare system that can function without outside assistance? Are good private hospitals available? Can you obtain your medication locally? Would your insurance cover treatment or medical evacuation? Another issue Americans abroad continue to face is banking. Under FATCA, foreign financial institutions may be required to identify and report accounts held by U.S. taxpayers. Because of paperwork and compliance costs, some foreign banks refuse to serve American customers or restrict the services available to them. This is not a brand new policy, but its effects remain a long-term problem for Americans living overseas. A retiree should not depend on a single local bank account, a single debit card, or a single way of receiving money. Keep access to more than one financial institution. Carry backup cards. Maintain emergency cash in a secure place. And understand the U.S. reporting requirements for foreign accounts, including FATCA and the Foreign Bank Account Report, FBR. Travel warnings are also being updated as conditions change. A country that seemed affordable and comfortable 6 months ago may experience political unrest, natural disasters, crime, conflict, or a breakdown in healthcare and transportation. The State Department explains that its travel advisories are designed to describe risks specifically affecting U.S. citizens overseas. A higher travel warning level does not automatically mean that every part of a country is equally dangerous, but it can affect travel insurance, evacuation coverage, transportation, tourism, and family members' willingness to visit you. So, are these changes temporary? Some probably are. Embassy staffing reductions caused by a particular conflict may be reversed when conditions improve. An emergency travel warning may also be lowered, but the broader direction appears more significant. The United States is reducing some forms of foreign assistance, centralizing certain diplomatic operations, limiting where resources are placed, and expecting Americans overseas to take greater responsibility for their own emergency planning. That may continue even after individual leaders and administrations change. This does not mean you should panic or abandon the idea of retiring abroad. It means you should look beyond beaches, low rents, and inexpensive restaurants. Ask how stable the local government is. Examine the healthcare system. Find out how dependent the country is on foreign aid. Check the location and operating status of the nearest U.S. embassy or consulate. Research whether local banks accept American customers. It is best to always maintain a U.S. banking account, even if you have a foreign account, and always have a way to leave the country without waiting for the U.S. government to rescue you. Living overseas can still provide a wonderful retirement. It can offer lower costs, beautiful surroundings, new experiences, and a better quality of life. But successful expats do not simply watch the cost of living. They watch government policy, healthcare access, banking rules, diplomatic activity, and regional security. Because sometimes the most important warning is not a dramatic headline. It is a gradual pattern showing that the support you once expected may not always be there. If you enjoy practical retirement planning and international living, subscribe to Budget Retirement Options. Every week, we help retirees make informed decisions about living well, spending wisely, and preparing for whatever comes next. Changes are happening, and they are happening fast.